Everything was fine during my pregnancy. Really no complications at all. We weren't really concerned about anything until
you started having pain. And she didn't want to go in because she didn't want to be a hypochondriac. She's just there Thursday, didn't want to go back on a Saturday. And then she was in a lot of pain all night, all day Sunday. She didn't do it, she didn't sleep. So when I got up that early that morning, that Monday morning, I'm like, well, let's go. And off to Shannon we went. The nurses took her right in, said, yeah, she's having full-blown contractions.
Rylan was born here at Shannon. He was born at 34 weeks, which is about 6 weeks too soon. His mom went into premature labor.
We got a little scared, it's too early, 6 weeks at that point early. They tried to stop the contractions. That didn't help. They finally gave her an Ambien to relax about 10 p.m. that night, and then not 40 minutes later her water broke. We knew the baby was coming. And we knew that he was probably going to have a little bit of problems coming out, with not being able to breathe. But of course, we didn't know it was going to happen just like it did.
When he was initially born, he wasn't breathing. So he was brought over to the radiant warmer. And normally, drying and stimulating will get a baby breathing. This time it didn't.
He went straight from there, straight out into the incubator, and the lady started working on him.
His dad was standing right beside him. I remember he was kind of blocking Rylan's so that Mom really couldn't see what was going on. But Dad knew that his son was in trouble.
I could tell right off the bat, they put all the monitors on, they cleaned him up, and I noticed his color wasn't right. He was real limp and not responding.
I just remember that I looked over and one of the nurses raised his arm up and he just fell.
He required some what we called resuscitation. We had to start breathing for him.
I kept looking, I was trying to block her from seeing everything, and she was looking at me. I'm like, everything's fine, and I'd turn around, and I was the praying. I said, I've never been so ready to die for something in my whole life. That was pretty hard.
So the first 8 minutes of his life were pretty tense.
He finally, gave a little bit of a cough and turned pink.
By about 10 minutes of age, his mom got to hold him for the first time. Because he was early, he had to be taken to the nursery for monitoring in our intermediate care unit. So the first day of his life was a little bit rocky, but after that, he just needed to feed and grow. He needed to grow up. So he spent about 10 days with us.
It was the longest 10 days probably of my life, I would say.
They were very accommodating to her. They didn't have to let her stay there, and they did. They made room for her.
There was nowhere else better for me at that point, than to be there with them. They were just amazing women, amazing women.
I fell in love with this family the first day I met them. They're just bright and bubbly, and Lacey's always smiling, so it's easy to like them. And Rylan's just a love. You just want to cuddle with him every time you see him. I was the one who discharged them home, so I got to walk them out and watch them go off become a family and go off into their lives.
Everybody there at Shannon was great. All the nurses, the doctors, and you felt like you were with family.
I think the biggest thing that helped Rylan's health care is the fact that Children's Miracle Network provided the training for us to be prepared for Rylan's birth. And CMN pays for that training.
Everything that was there to help, not only sustain his life, but to resuscitate him was because of what people giving and them Shannon having the ability to have the right necessary equipment for something like that.
It's the Children's Miracle Network.
Yeah, it is, and we didn't realize that until after the fact. Something that's like you take for granted. If it's there, you don't notice it until somebody brings it to light that, hey, not everybody has the ability to or has access to equipment like we did at Shannon. So, very grateful for that. Please support the Children's Miracle Network.
And help a miracle kid like me.